Well, let's speak now to Denis Campbell from Boston, who is the editor of UK Progressive magazine and host of the World View show. He lives in Wales now. Denis, good morning.
Good morning, Felicity.
A terrible thing to see in your native city, I would imagine.
It is. It's just horrible. It was. I mean, it's such a festive day. It's a holiday only in the state of Massachusetts, and it is one where we would get up all the time just to watch the marathon race. It's such a spectacle from Hopkinton all the way to Boston and up over Heartbreak Hill, which has a deeper meaning this day.
And the marathon itself is very well established, one of the world's oldest, I believe, and people from all over the world come to take part.
Indeed. When I was in university, I went to a school there called Boston College, which, of course, has a different meaning in the United States than of course, here. And we would wait for four things. We would wait for the male runner, Bill Rogers, to come by, for the leaders of the female race, for the Hoyt family, which was a father and son, which for 34 years he's pushed his son in a wheelchair across the line, and 90-year-old Johnny Kelly. It was a party. It was a festive event, and it was likely that up until the moment of the bomb blasts yesterday.
And the sort of event then, as you say, that is celebratory, that takes place on a state holiday when plenty of people are looking for a nice activity to do, and the marathon must be a great draw for crowds.
Oh, it is. There are literally hundreds of thousands of people. The crowds are often, particularly up on top Heartbreak Hill, where the university is located, they were at least 10 or 12 deep there. Down by the finish line, they're even further. And in Copley Square, where they've moved the finish line over the last several years, it is a very popular gathering place. The annual New Year's Eve first night happens there. It's a very crowded area, and it's just a shocking thing.
Denis, stay with us. We're going to speak to somebody who took part in the race yesterday. Lance Sven was taking part and joins us now from his home in New Jersey. Lance, are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay. Me and my teammates were all safe and sound now.
Where were you when you heard the explosion?
I was past the finish line. I was down 2 blocks. I was looking for my dad and in the crowd. And then I looked back at the finish line, and then I saw and heard the first blast. And then 15 seconds later, I heard and saw the second blast.
And did you realise what had happened, that there had been an explosion, or did it take a while for that thought to process?
Well, my first thought was that it was like some weird celebration cannon. Maybe someone special crossed the finish line and they were like celebrating. But then I saw the smoke coming from a building, and I'm like, oh no, like something is going on. And then I ran over to my dad, and there were barriers in between us, so I jumped over them. And then when I looked back again, saw the second one, and thought, oh, this is something really serious.
And what was the scene at that point, Lance? Were people running away? What was happening?
Yeah, I knew that I had 2 of my teammates not too far behind me. And since I crossed the finish line about 10 minutes before, I figured that they could be about at the finish line. So I got my dad, and I started heading towards the finish line. And just like dozens and dozens of people were trying to flee the area. So I was going against the crowd. And then finally, my dad stopped me and said, we need to get out of here. So then we took off the other direction, and then we spent the rest of the next hour and a half trying to connect with our teammates and some of our spectating fans that were there. And
a terribly shocking event to be caught up in, Lance. How are you and your teammates and your father, how are you all feeling at the moment? I mean, you must be shaken, I would imagine.
Oh, it was a surreal feeling. We all spent different moments kind of all like breaking down and in shock. The first time I saw my mom afterwards, she just held on to us and she started crying. And then when we finally connected with our last 2 teammates, we just embraced and held on to each other. And that's when it kind of hits you like, oh, this is something serious. This was someone who's out trying to hurt people, and we're okay.
Well, Lance, I'm really delighted to hear that you and your family and teammates are okay. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us and sharing that experience. Denis, I suppose, you know, that there comes a point where you have to get away from the human drama of it and perhaps try to analyse what's been going on here and who might be responsible. The police and the FBI, which is leading the investigation, playing their cards very close to their chest on that at the moment.
Indeed, because they're still in the process of gathering up forensic information. I think there's a couple of significant things that need to be looked at. This is a particularly historically bloody week in the United States. I mean, if you wait till Friday, you'll see that we're about to have the 18th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. We've got the Waco, Texas bombing that also occurred during this day. We have the massacres at Columbine and Virginia Tech. And, there's a lot of speculation, and believe me, it's only speculation at this point, that this could indeed be a homegrown sort of terrorist as opposed to the typical usual suspects that people look at. And I think that because of that, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to find, who was involved in this.
And in terms of the response from the authorities, both within Boston at state level and at federal level from the White House, Denis, what are you hearing from friends and colleagues there in the United States? Are people content with the reaction of the authorities to this event at this stage?
Well, at this point, yes. I mean, you have to keep in mind at 10 minutes after 7 here in Wales, it's just past 11 in the evening in parts of the United States, about 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's very quiet. That region where it happened, that whole central core area around Copley Square, has been in lockdown for the last 11, 12 hours. And basically, they're in the process of, checking to make sure all of the forensics are there and that they really are doing their job. Most of the speculation you're hearing is actually from the news media at this point, and it hasn't been terribly helpful because it then gets people moving on Twitter, on social media, and we later find that things such as, a second device found in Newton, that's of course been debunked. The fire that happened at the Kennedy Library, which is about 5-6 miles away from where these blasts occurred, that's been debunked. So you're going to have a lot of rumors and you're going to have a lot of scaremongering, and it's going to take some time for it to sort itself out.
Indeed. Well, Denis, thank you very much for talking to us this morning. We do appreciate it. Denis Campbell there, who's from Boston originally and is the editor of UK Progressive magazine and host of the World View show.